Welcome to our weekly conversation program. We call it Moral Side of the News. We're glad you're alongside this weekend. I'm John Blim with the WHAS Crusade for Children. With me, a distinguished panel once again this week. Reverend Sally McClain, retired Christian Church Disciples of Christ. Dr. John Slider, Breckenridge Chapel, Free Methodist. Reverend Jason Crosby, Crescent Hill Baptist Church. And Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville. Panel, I look forward to the day COVID is not leading the news, but this week, Kentucky has 6 counties among the top 10 nationwide with the highest rates of COVID-19. Eastern Kentucky's Perry County ranked first. Meantime, COVID fatigue is real, and to ease the burden on the overwhelmed healthcare system, Kentucky National Guard members have been deployed to 25 hospitals. And also news today that a 4th Kentucky school staff member has died of COVID. So we turn to our panel on Moral Side of the News. Panel, these are not the headlines we want to read.
Nope, you are correct. A lot of my, I appreciate you sharing a lot of the data with us. A lot of my information has been anecdotal, and it's almost been to an anecdote to a person that I've heard have been vaccinated, except for one. So, and I don't have a wide swath of data, just maybe 10 or so. And so I'm wondering if this, if the previous vaccine, I guess that they're the one that's still being given, is actually helping against the Delta variant. Could be some concern there.
It's not going to go away until everybody realizes they need to be vaccinated. And unfortunately, there are pockets in our state that don't think that that's necessary. My feeling is it's kind of like if you have a toothache, whether or not you go to the dentist is your right, because you're not going to hurt anyone else with your toothache. It's contained, but you can infect and possibly kill other people with this virus without the vaccine. Mm-hmm. Or you will die. And that's where our hospitals are right now. So it's just really a tragic thing that we're still dealing with this, because I think it could be gone by now.
I did a little research as well in regards to statistics for John's benefit there. But as of last week, the stats that I came up with, the National Journal that looked at all the data coming from the CDC, et cetera, 100,000 Americans have been hospitalized just in the last week with COVID-19. It's the highest since January. 1,300 deaths are being experienced per day. Pediatric cases are skyrocketing. 200,000 new infections this last week of children. 330 kids are being admitted to the hospitals every day. I don't know what you do. I've heard a lot, not all, but a number of the arguments against, number of arguments for, et cetera. My routine, bottom line, is you persuade if possible and require if demanded. And I don't know really how much farther away we could get from the demand coming up. You see more and more governors saying, I'm going to do away with these mandates, and yet then the school boards, for instance, my understanding here in Kentucky, 71% of the school systems now are mandating masks, even with the governor being, that power being taken away from the governor, et cetera. It's people are long held feelings and in information they accept as being prevalent, or how you say, pertinent to so-called rights. But again, we've said many times on this panel that with rights come responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And all rights that I'm understanding in philosophy, even some in theology, most in theology, and also in politics, none of them are absolute. They're time framed, and we need to understand more and more as we do each day what this variant or these variants, now with the Mu variant, can do. And we do need to try to persuade as much as possible, because I'm with you. If we can get the vast majority of our people vaccinated, we might have a little bit more of a handle on this thing. Otherwise, as you say, we're going to be living this for a long time to come.
Long time.
Well, and one other interesting statistic that I think tells the tale of the particular situation we're facing in Kentucky. with these counties in the top 10 in terms of infection rates across the country is the vaccination rates in these particular counties relative just to other counties in the Commonwealth. Clay County is one of the 6. Clay County happens to be the home of Senate President Rob Stivers, and
Right.
Clay County has a vaccination rate at 32 or 33%. So, John, to your point about the efficacy of the vaccines, all the data that I have shown is that there is direct correlation between communities being protected against the Delta variant, between hospitalizations and ICU beds that are occupied by COVID patients, and deaths and ventilators as well. All of that directly correlates to the vaccination rate. And so in these 6 counties, vaccination rates are some of the lowest in the Commonwealth, and that is a direct correlation to some of the issues that they're facing at this juncture. And while I appreciate and understand that the state legislature has the right and authority to strip the governor of his ability to institute mandates from the executive branch, the reality is that what the legislatures did was they just delayed what our governor had put in place as a mandate from early in this pandemic with mask mandates, principally in schools. And what they did at the general session in the last couple of weeks is they just kicked passed the buck onto the school districts. And guess what's happened now? School districts who are on the ground all across the state understand if they want to keep their doors open, they then have to institute mask mandates, which were already in place. It was an exercise in futility and a waste of valuable time and energy in the midst of one of the greatest crises our Commonwealth has faced. The last thing I'll say on this front is this. Speaking of anecdotes, I have a friend who's an internist at a rural hospital in Kentucky who regularly comments to me about what he is seeing and experiencing on the ground firsthand. And his anecdotal response is that nearly everyone he admits to the hospital some days are folks who are unvaccinated and who have COVID. And, at a certain point, and this friend of mine put it succinctly and in a way I hadn't thought about before, at what point are these deaths in part considered suicide and not merely categorized as death by COVID? I think that we're at that point, and I think helping people think about this situation in those terms could be a helpful reframing because I sense that's where we are.
Yeah, I was, and I appreciate you, Jason, for the, I'll call it a correction. I in no way was arguing again. I know your spirit. I wasn't upset with you. Was in no way arguing against vaccinations as whatever their level of efficacy. There is some efficacy, and I presume that the other variant, the original variant, is still out there and active anyway, so that it certainly helps. I am intrigued and of the slogan that is being used or adopted now by those who do not wish to be vaccinated, "My body, my choice," which is used in other venues. I don't want to drag us into a long conversation about that or a side street. For me, the argument is that yes, it is my body, my choice, and I'm reluctant to invite the government into my choices. However, when there is a third party involved, in this case, possible infection of other persons, there's a third party in the other arena that I was referencing obliquely. I do think government has an opportunity and responsibility, but we'll say responsibility to act to protect third parties.
Right.
So and that is always, Tony, as you were talking about, you mentioned rights and so on. That is always a delicate balance between individual rights in relation to the government and protecting third parties.
Right.
I personally came down consistent in the my body, my choice debate. I got the vaccine. So, but that was my personal choice, guided by my physician, and of course not mandated by the government. So, yeah.
In my comments or my thoughts, trying to put a name or a tab to the reluctance to get vaccinated, I come upon maybe just throw this out for consideration, but to me, it's a matter of hypocrisy. I think how many of us rely upon science and medical technology, et cetera, in the normal course of events. But when the medical and the scientific communities say you need to do this to prohibit the virus or whatever, and we say, no, it's my body, my choice. Okay, fine, it's fine. But then what happens when we get the virus? We flock to the same medical folks and say, please save my rear end. I'm sorry. If that's the case, to me, that's an epitome of hypocrisy, that we don't take, we only accept what we want to accept when we want to accept it. And if that is the case, then I know it would be a terrible moral sin, to use that terminology, if we just said you're on your own if you get this virus. But sometimes, it's like smoking. If you smoke constantly and don't listen to science and you come down with lung cancer, then run to them saying, protect me and help me stay alive. There's a hypocrisy there too, I think. So I just throw that out because I've been battling with that in my mind as well.
I was hopefully reflecting an internal debate I've been having as well. So
initially it was thought that children would not come down with the virus, and therefore we don't need to protect our children as much. We got a text on Tuesday that our two neighbors' children, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, both had the virus. And the issue is that for us personally, my husband almost died with it. For him to be exposed again is dangerous to the variant. So, I don't think people realize the seriousness. What have we lost? 650,000 people to this virus. So, when you talk about a suicide, or then you talk about, well, but I demand to go to the hospital because I haven't had the vaccine, but I demand the same kind of treatment. We got the virus before the vaccine was available. So, to me, it's just nonsensical that people cannot see that they are trying not only to protect themselves, but to protect other people.
Right. You mentioned children. We have a school here of over 600 kids. And just chatting with our staff meeting recently about the principal, I would not want to be a principal in a school system right now. Any of that. He said it's not just a matter of someone coughs and you send them home, but there are you've got to jump a lot of hoops in order to have one of the children, for instance, declared to be positive, et cetera. And then what do? Heartbreaking little first grader celebrating her birthday that day with all kinds of balloons and cakes in the classroom. They had to interrupt and take her home.
Right.
Because she was positive. I mean, about the kids not getting the virus, my God, they're the biggest carriers seem to be right now in a lot of situations. So, and even their own infection rates are here at St. Patrick. I forget how many kids since they opened up school last, week or so ago, or whatever it was, maybe last month, have been sent home positive. And then, as one legislator I heard said, well, let's not send the whole school home. Let's just send that class. Well, you can't just send one class home, especially if the junior has an older brother or sister in 3 other grades or so. To me, there's a lot of confusion in people's minds about schools as well. But I applaud the mandate for schools.
And then the whole family is quarantined.
Exactly.
The child.
I think we could agree that there's there's misinformation out there. How much, and who on which side is the most? I'm not going to worry about that. There is a lot of misinformation out there, but I think the moderate and probably best positioned to which we could all agree here is that everybody should choose to have the vaccine to protect themselves and to protect others. And to me, hopefully we could all agree on that.
Well, that is one with kids in elementary school and Jefferson County Public Schools. I will say that I heard word this past weekend that it's possible and feasible that vaccines will be available for children ages 5 to 12, perhaps sometime in October. And my kids will be as close to the front of the line as they can possibly be.
Sure. Yeah.
Largely because of what Tony mentioned, we have been fortunate that we have avoided a quarantine or disruption, but we have been close to those disruptions, quarantines, other children testing positive in their school. And that has some serious effects. People talk about psychological effects of wearing a mask. My kids go to school every day and they are completely happy when we drop them off wearing a mask and when we pick them up wearing a mask, and they've worn a mask for 7 hours. My kids would be outraged to not be able to go to school for 2 weeks because they tested positive. That's where the effect really has an impact. One last thing that I'll say on this subject that came to mind is we are close to, if not at a point where we have surpassed the number of deaths that occurred during the Spanish flu outbreak that was over 100 years ago. We did not have the same medical technology, the same scientific sophistication in terms of vaccine development. They did not have that then as we do now. And yet, because of misinformation, because of moral perspective, because of ideological influence, more people will die in the United States due to COVID than died in a Spanish flu outbreak that took place more than a century ago. Think about how powerful, John, you were talking about the misinformation, how powerful that misinformation is and how severe avoidable consequences have been.
Yeah, agreed. I would say to balance, to give the whole perspective on what you're saying, the population was very much smaller at that time. So when you're looking at maybe percentage of population that was, I'm not arguing against what you're saying. I'm just saying information needs the full picture. Mm-hmm. And you were appropriate. I wouldn't suggesting otherwise.
Okay,
a lot of that flu affected soldiers that were going to be sent to World War I and never left the United States because of the flu.
Okay, panel, we're off to a good start, and thank you for your discussion about COVID-19. We'll move on to our second topic today. Louisville's homeless population is the focus again this month. Officials have posted a 21-day notice for the clearing, that is, of downtown camps located underneath and next to Interstate 65. Experts say it's due to health and safety concerns. Metro Louisville government announced new partners to offer options and provide services to those in need. So, panel, your thoughts on the homeless and moving of camps to clear out some areas?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that is there a law allowing or disallowing camping? And I'm not sure where the area is. Is it under the interstate bridges or somewhere?
Jefferson Street is one that's very prevalent, and a few others right under Interstate 65. Yes.
Yeah,
John, that is right there. All that's right there, close to where Wayside Christian Mission is located. Yeah, so there's some services provided there.
Yeah. I'm sort of baffled as to how it could have just been allowed to get to this point. I mean, is it again, I'm kind of in that area, but it's not sometimes, but it's not something of which I've been aware. Jason, you sound like you're a little bit more in tune with it. How long has it been going on, right?
Well, on and off for a number of years at this point. Pre-pandemic, the issue emerged as the city was developing in other places. I think in particular, Nulu and some places west of 9th Street, as some developments were underway that concentrated people then in that new location. Early in COVID, the clearing of homeless camps was suspended. And so as the pandemic has gone on, in particular in that location, there has continued to be the snowball effect, I guess, where as more and more folks have kind of set up camp there.
I would think during COVID, it would be more critical to get those camps cleared versus to let people congregate. But it just baffles me that, and I'm not slamming, I obviously don't know as much as probably everybody else here in this one area. But did the government just say, well, to the police, well, don't enforce this? I'm a little bit baffled. I'm in general in favor of removing people folks from camping on areas that are not designated for camping. I mean, that's it not only is an unhealthy situation for them now, but it is not is probably a dangerous situation to congregate folks without any sort of vetting, and to it may detract from business owners who are trying to function down there, and the safety of people who are visiting. I'm not trying to say all those folks are bad people. I'm sure they got their reasons for being there, but I'm surprised it was allowed to get to this point.
Yeah, John, I'm not familiar with on the in crowd of how it came about, but I do know that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is involved as well. Mm-hmm. And that would be seen international right away and things of this nature. It's kind of like I would presume, again, I'm speaking from ignorance, which I do quite often. Yeah. But in regards to like a right of way on your property, you are responsible for keeping that right of way clear, etc. It could be something of that nature. I'm not sure, but I know it's a state, not just the city. It's also involves the state in some form or fashion. So.
Well, if you're talking about health risks, I'm sure these people have been offered the opportunity to have the vaccine. So are they looking at this from a perspective of a health risk?
Health and safety, I think, because of the gathering and the closeness and traffic that travels through there, a pretty good clip of speed on many of these streets. And it's, as John Slider mentioned, it's been an up and down topic about what to do, right. Clear it, leave it, clear it. So I think they've reached maybe a point where they want to clear it out again.
So it's more for the safety of the people who are camping than it is for the safety of the individuals who are going through or trying to get from one place to another. Yeah. And then what do you do with your homeless? How do you handle that?
Well, all of this is unfolding at a point when the city in the last month announced that it had dedicated $3 million from an initial investment of American Rescue Plan funds to purchase a plot of land in Old Louisville to provide outdoor space for people who are homeless. And I believe that they hope to make that land available at a time that would coincide with when folks will be asked to leave the current area that is being cleared. So that's one proactive piece that's taking place. And then the city is cooperating with other organizations to provide services. And then the big question is, with the almost $400 million, $380 million that the city will be distributing from the next round of American Rescue Plan funds. Hopefully there will be a plan in place to dedicate more funds to deal with this on a longer term basis.
Right. Yeah. Jason, the property you referenced there is on East College Street. That's the old chancery for the Archdiocese of Louisville. And it is, someone has said, well, how will the homeless know where to go? Is it, listen, the history of that building, they know where to go. And there would be lots of folks who are homeless and looking for assistance were there for how many decades that building was there. So
There are folks who know exactly when worship ends and when the offering will be counted. So I'm not making fun of them. Folks have for every person. There's probably a valid story. I think we've been hitting on that. There's an issue that's broader than just today's problem of clearing out that area. Communities that are able to deal with that seem to have some of the, I'm just observing with little knowledge here, but seem to have some of the more strict or stricter approaches. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of providing an area, but that may just attract more folks. That it's a multi-layered problem.
Right.
And do we have numbers on the homeless in Louisville?
Say again. Numbers. I don't have.
Don't have the latest.
I think Jefferson County ought to send them to Shelby County. How about you?
Sally? No, thank you. Well,
no.
we have our own.
Okay.
I'm glad though to see that there are other options, just rather than just closing things down.
Right.
Some possible options. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think to deal with it as compassionately as possible is what we would all hope for.
And hopefully religious entities of all across the spectrum would not only be interested in, I'm sure, but be valuable in addressing this and viewing it as a temporary situation for these folks, to involve more than just, okay, you can throw your tent here.
Catholic Charities is involved in that, John, I know, but right now Catholic Charities is boning up for the Afghan refugees. Kentucky's expected to get about 300 of them, I believe.
And Sally, to your question, I don't want to try to give a number to the homeless population in Louisville, but I will say it's not that far away. The Coalition for the Homeless organizes in late November, early December every year a homeless count, which is very important in terms of trying to deal with the breadth and width of the issue and how to address the problems that are at hand. And folks can volunteer for that effort that's not too far down the road.
All right, thanks, panel. Jason. Believe it or not, we've run through our half hour of moral side of the news again this week. Thanks to Sally McClain, John Slider, Jason Crosby, and Tony Smith. You can catch this program again anytime on YouTube, so be sure to do that. And until next week, thank you, panel, for a great discussion, and we'll see you next week. So long.